All this now as a bill that would begin the cutoff of American forces from Iraq is making its way now toward the President. Analysis from Mort Kondracki, executive editor of Roll Call, Mara Lass, national political correspondent of National Public Radio, and the syndicated columnist Charles Krauthammer, Fox News contributors all. Well, the disagreement between the White House and the Hill could not have been more perfectly exemplified than by the comments between the President and Harry Reid today. Senator Reid, having said last week that the war is lost, is now saying that there has been no progress in terms of as a result of the surge in troops. He's quoting General Petraeus to support his argument. The President is quoting General Petraeus, who was at his side in the Oval Office today, to support his. Mort, where are we?
Well, I mean, the game of chicken goes on with General Petraeus caught in the middle. I mean, the Democrats did not wait to hear his report Wednesday and Thursday in two closed sessions of
later
Congress later this week. They are going to vote Wednesday and Thursday to require the beginning of withdrawals of our troops either in October or July. I mean, the incentive structure here is really strange. The Iraqis, if the Iraqis do everything that they're supposed to do, their reward is that we will start pulling out our troops on them in October. If they don't do what they're supposed to do, their punishment is that we're going to start pulling out in July. You know, they can't win either way. We're going. We're beginning withdrawal, and what they want to do is set a goal to get all of our troops out by next March, and regardless of the situation. Regardless of whether we're succeeding or failing, or if Al-Qaeda is mounting an offensive, we're nonetheless, we're going to be gone. I mean, it's just crazy.
Yeah, look, this is the first step in a process that everybody's been well aware of. The President is going to veto this bill. The Democrats made one small concession. They changed the hard date for a complete withdrawal to a goal. That was the Senate language. And then they're going to have some real negotiations, not just between the Senate and the House Democrats, but between the White House and Congress about how they're going to fund this war and go forward. Because, as one Democratic leader after another has said, they're not going to cut off funding. Although there is a provision in here that if the benchmarks are not reached, funding will be withdrawn for everything except protecting the U.S. forces, engaging in targeted actions against al-Qaeda, and training the Iraqi forces. So there is a little bit of defunding here, but not what the Democrats say.
This is a capitulation of the Democrats to the hard anti-war left in their party. As Mort indicates, the withdrawal starts no matter what the Iraqis do. They get a three-month grace period if everything is done, which of course it can't be done. The way I read it, however, it reads after the conclusion of the 180-day period. When the withdrawal starts, they have 6 months, and after that 6 months, the Secretary of Defense may not deploy or maintain the members of the armed forces in Iraq except for training and a few specific missions. That's a full withdrawal in 6 months. That's pretty hard left. The other provisions are the ones in which the President is restricted in deploying troops with restrictions about readiness, also about amount of the time a troop had been deployed earlier. These kinds of restrictions, which Murtha has told us, were explicitly chosen because they're impossible to meet, are something that no president, even a Democratic president, would not sign, because it is a huge...
no president would sign it.
Would sign, because it is a denigration of his powers as commander-in-chief, unprecedented. If we had these provisions in the Second World War, we'd be speaking German here on this panel, if we had a panel.
We wouldn't have a panel.
Well, I wouldn't be on it.
Well, let me just get into this question, and that is, at the moment, given the trend of things over there and where the major violence has been coming from, aren't we now in a situation where it can be argued, perhaps successfully, that the major fighting we're doing now and the major problem right now is Al-Qaeda in Iraq?
Absolutely, and the Democrats seem to think that we're going to be able to somehow fight Al-Qaeda even though we've withdrawn all these troops. I mean, Al-Qaeda is a major problem. Al-Qaeda is trying to reignite sectarian violence. Sectarian violence is actually down in Iraq in terms of militia killings and that sort of thing. And Al-Qaeda is doing its best to try to reignite it. We will not be able to stand in the way of that because we're going to have to withdraw from Baghdad.
The single most fatuous statement here was Senator Reid, who said what we need is not a surge of troops but a surge of diplomacy. What's he talking about? Sitting with Iran and Syria and Al-Qaeda and negotiating the terms of our surrender? That's what he means by achieving victory?
I think he's talking about diplomacy among the Iraqis, but the Iraqis are not going to.
You mean the Iraqis and the Iranians? You mean?
No. He's talking about both external diplomacy and internal diplomacy, and he wants to encourage the Iraqis to reconcile. But the Iraqis are not going to be able to reconcile if they don't have
bloodshed
security.
in the streets. Yeah. Mara, you got the last word here?
Look, I think that the Democrats are clearly trying to say that if they were running strategy in Iraq, the goal would be to fight al-Qaeda. I think that experts have said over and over again, it takes almost as many troops in Iraq to just fight al-Qaeda as opposed to